crash course. Today we are going from absolute beginner to advanced in one comprehensive video. So Flexbox is one of the most important layers in modern CSS. If you have ever struggled with centering content, creating navigation bars, or making responsive layouts, believe me, Flexbox is going to change your life. We are starting from the basics, what Flexbox is and why it exists, and building up to advanced techniques used by professional developers. Every example will include HTML, CSS code that you can copy and practice with. By the end of today's video, you will have complete mastery of Flexbox, hopefully, and be able to create any layout you can imagine. So without wasting much time, let's get started. Here I have my code editor opened and live server and my Chrome browser ready. Okay. Actually, let me write the HTML structure. Okay, there we go. So before Flexbox, creating layouts in CSS was frustrating. Really, you want to center something vertically? Good luck. Want equal height columns? Complex workarounds? Flexbox solved all these problems with simple intuitive properties. Actually, let me show you our first example. Okay. Okay, let's start our first example of Flexbox. So I'm going to create a container with items inside. I'm going to create a container with some few items inside. Okay, let's say by now all of you that are using VS Code, I hope you're familiar with this image abbreviation, right? Because I've been using it in our HTML classes during the list lesson. Okay, let's say and this will generate the number of items I needed. Okay, so I'm going to create 4 items inside the container, right? So let's say, okay, there we go. So we have our 4 items, right? Now let's start writing CSS. Actually, let me reset the margins and paddings and set the box sizing to border box. Okay, make sure you write these CSS resets in every project you are working on. Okay, in each of your CSS file, if you are starting out, make sure you write this CSS resets. You zero the margin, padding, and set box sizing to border box, and you are going to do that on the using the universal selector. So this star here, because using this star applies those styles inside of the curly braces to each and every element on that page. Okay, so let's style our items. Okay, let's say, sorry, let's give it a padding of 15 pixels. No margin yet. Let's say text transform, opaqueness, background. Let's give it a background of slate blue, right? So nothing happened. Oh, I forgot to link my CSS file. Okay, Okay, there you go. So set the color of the text to white. So some hex color, which is FFF, stands for white, right? So right now there is no spacing between those items. Actually, let me give them some space. Just give it a margin of 5 pixels between them. Okay, there you go. So right now let's start our Flexbox. Okay, this is where the magic actually begins, right? So what happens when you when you add the property display flex? Can you guess it? Okay. Oh, can you see what happened? The items automatically arrange horizontally instead of stacking vertically. That's Flexbox for you, right? So this is the start. This is the first property, Flexbox property we'll use, right? So the display flex, and we also have the second property, which is flex direction. Actually, let me uh, give this container some styles. Okay, let's say let let's give it a, let's say, border of 1 pixels, right? Let me give it a max width of 800 pixels, right? Actually, let me return the browser into its normal size, so to 100%, right? So right now this is our container, right? Our container, can you see our items there? So right now they are arranged horizontally, right? So we have this property, this flexbox property called flex direction, right? So what this property does is it controls which way the items flow, right? So whether vertically or horizontally. Now let's say flex direction column, and watch what happens. Okay, they have returned back to how they are before. We also have flex direction of row, right? Actually, let me write them here. Flex direction, the first one is column, right? So we also have column reverse, right? Watch what happens. So as you might guess, the last item now becomes the first item on the list, right? So you also have flex direction row, which is the default if you without even adding flex direction of row. If you just add the property display flex, if you just made the container a flex container, it automatically arranges the items inside of it horizontally, right? So flex direction row, we also have row reverse. Okay, can you see what happened? So this is the second property we covered, right? We also have this property called justify content. Okay, justify content controls how items are distributed along the main axis. So what I mean is that, let's say justify content. Can you see the options? Baseline, center, Okay guys, so our justify content property here has some values, right? We have the flex and flex start first, which is the default behavior. We also have the flex and, right? We also have the flex justify content of center, right? And we also have justify content, the most important ones, I'm gonna tell you. So we have space between, space around first. Can you see how the spaces are distributed between the items? We also have we also have space evenly. Space evenly and space around are similar but slightly different, right? Okay. Okay. We also have justify content center, right? So this centers the items. Okay, sorry, I've already shown you this one, right? So this is all about this property. These are the most used values, right? So flex start, flex end, center, space around, space evenly. Okay. So we also have the next one, which is the first one here, space between. I didn't even give you, right? It's supposed to be the first one here. So space between. Uh, yeah. So space between is mostly used for navigation bars, and this center, justify content center, is used for hero sections, right? You might not know what I mean by hero section for now, but later, after finishing our layouts lessons, we will build some landing pages together. And so I will tell you the names of each part of the web page, right? So for now, let's just focus on Flexbox. So the next property we are going to look at is the align items, right? Align items. So as you can see, it has tons of values too. Baseline, center, first baseline, flex and flex start. But the most used ones are these ones here. Okay. Center, N, or the N and the this thing, start. There's the same thing with flex start and flex N. Okay. Let's say flex N or flex start. What, nothing happened, right? Let me give it some height. Let's say 100 ph. Uh, so align items flex start, right? Flex N. Can you see what happened? So the align items, the flex start, justify content deals with horizontally, right? The horizontal alignment, while the align items deals with the uh, vertical alignment, right? So what happens if I turn on this thing, the flex direction of column? Can you see what happened? So if flex direction of column is on, then align items becomes the one that is controlling the horizontal, and the justify content will be controlling the horizontal, the vertical, sorry. Now let's add justify content, flex n. Can you see that? Or flex start, right? Let's put this one to start. Okay, I hope you're understanding what's going on here. Actually, let me add some margins around our body so that you see our container clearly. Okay, and our container here should be 50 VH, not 100, right? That might give you a better view of what's happening inside the container. Okay, let's turn off the flex direction of column, right? So now the items, let's say we also have justify content. I've already covered justify content, right? Now let's say we have align items center. Can you see they are centered in their container, right? We also have align items n. So let me write all of them down. Align items flex start, okay, and then align items center, and then align items flex n. Okay, I hope you're understanding what I'm doing, right? This is crucial, right? Flexbox knowledge is crucial for every web developer. So I hope you might master it. Okay, so we also have this property called flex wrap, right? This is mostly used for responsive web design, right? Flex wrap. And we have no wrap, which is the default one, right? We also have wrap. Do you know what they do? When items don't fit, right? So the flex wrap property controls what happens. Either they break or they continue stretching like that. Actually, let me show it to you. So this is our items, right? Let's say uh, let me give them some let me give them width of 350 pixels, right? 550. They still fit. And do you know why is that? Because no matter what, Flexbox might find a way to actually make them all fit inside the container. But right now they are just blue boxes with nothing inside them. But let's say we have contents here inside of it. So this is not good for our web page, right? So if you have this flex wrap of wrap, can you see what happened? When it sees that the space will not accommodate all of them, so they will now wrap. Okay, so the items are now aligned vertically. An example of this is the services section of a web page, right? The service section of a website. Let's say you are a web developer and the services you offer Now let's say you have three boxes, okay, in your services section. Actually, let me write them. Let me just tell you, we don't have enough time. The video is taking long, right? So let's say the perfect example is this one that I've showed you here. So when the items doesn't fit, when it sees that the service boxes, service cards are trying to lose their shape, then it now wraps, right? So it breaks down. It becomes the flex direction becomes column, right? So this property is very important for responsive web design. Okay, let me clear this for now. Okay, we also have the gap property. So the gap property is the modern way to add space between flex items, right? So instead of using the magic trick, the margin of 5 pixels here, right? You will just add, you will just say gap, let's say 10 pixels, right? Can you see that? It's working, right? So the next property we are going to look at, actually let us just talk about the flex item properties, right? So the flex property itself, you have this shorthand flex property. So like this. So what is this? What is this flex property? So it contains values like the flex, grow, shrink, and basis, right? Let's control individual items with flex, grow, shrink, and flex basis. Actually, I'm gonna need some CSS, some HTML, sorry, for this example. So let me comment this one out. Okay. So let's say I have this heading of, let's start with the flex grow, right? So flex grow is how items expand, right? Let me write it down here. How items expand, right? I don't like these fonts. Let me change it here. Okay, don't like the font family. So let's say Poppins. And mind you, I have Poppins installed on my computer. That's why I can be able to use it like that. Okay, and the font weight should be normal. Okay, there you go. So the flex grow controls how items expand, right? Let's say we have this container, right? Have container. Let's give it another class of, say, flex grow example, right? I'm going to comment this one out actually, because for now we don't need it, right? Okay, so we have our container here, right? Let's say we have three items inside of it. right? Okay, can you see that? So we have our container here and the flex items inside of it, right? So let me show you how flex grow works. So let's say, actually let me select them like this. We have this, our container has a class of grow example, right? After the container class we have grow example class 2. So two classes on one element, right? I've told you before it's possible, right? So let's select the first element, and then you can do this is as a end of type. Don't worry if you don't understand this these selectors. There will be a special video made just for them, right? So end of type, and then you select the first one, right? Let's set the background to gray. Okay, and actually let me give some space between the items. Okay, you no longer need this. So let me start our container here. Let's say we have a height of 50 vh and border of 1 pixel solid, right? Okay, and our items here. So item, right? Let's give it a padding of 15 pixels. Background of slate blue. Okay, actually let me display the container to flex. Let me make this container a flex container, right? Okay, there we go. So we have 3 items inside this container, right? So Dave, let me add another container just like that below for flex shrink and the other one. So the second one is flex shrink, right? So flex shrink controls how items contract, right? And the third one is flex basis. Okay, so the flex basis, right? It's like it's it's like it controls the width of the items, right? Let's say um, items with grow. Sorry, just items with grow. Okay. So right now the first one flex grow. Let me actually let us edit that one, right? Let's shrink, flex shrink, and flex basis. Okay, so our flex grow here. Let's say we have this property called, say we have the flex grow property here, this item. Okay, let's say flex grow, let's say 0. Okay, nothing happens, right? Let's select the second one. So the second element with a background color of sky blue. Let's set the flex grow to 2 to 1. Sorry. Can you see what happens? So it calculates and take up the remaining available space in the container, right? So it just left spaces that will accommodate the other items. Okay, first one it will not grow, and the second one it grows by 1 unit. Okay, so we also have, let's say, let's select the third item. Okay, can you see what happened? So now this one takes up the remaining spaces. Can you see their sizes now? So the first flex item here, the one that has grow 0, as you can see, the grow 1 has twice its size, and the grow 2 has like 3 of its size, right? So this is how flex grow works. I hope you understand it. Okay, now let me copy this. Let me copy this one here. This one. So the grow example, right? Let me copy it down. Say shrink. Right? So shrink example. Okay. Let's change the context to okay. There you go. So the way flex shrink works is that, actually let me show it to you. Okay. Let me show you what happened to this. Okay. Let's say I have this item of flex shrink, right? Actually, let's start with 1. Nothing happened, right? 2. And see, still nothing happened. Hey guys, what flex shrink decides, what it does is that it decides how much an item should give up its space when there isn't enough room in the flex container. Okay, so if the container is too small for all items, the browser will start shrinking them. Items with higher flex shrink value will shrink more, and items with a flex shrink of 0 will not shrink at all. They keep their size, even if that squishes the others, right? Imagine three boxes inside a container. The first box have flex shrink of 0, and the second one has flex shrink of 1, and the third one has flex shrink of 3. So the first one, which has the flex shrink of 0, it doesn't shrink at all, and the second one, which has the shrink of 1, it shrinks normally, right? And the third one shrinks 3x faster than box B. If the container is too narrow, box C will squeeze down the most, box B a little, and box A won't budge at all. Think of flex shrink like sharing the pen when space is tight, right? 0 is 0. For 0, I refuse to shrink. 0 will never shrink, right? And flex shrink 1 will shrink a fair amount, and the flex shrink 3 will sacrifice the most. Okay, let me show you the code in action. So we have this container here, right, with the second class which says shrink example, right? So let's take that actually. Shrink example, right? So let's display it to flex. Let's give it a border of 1 pixel solid red. Okay, let's give it a width of 300 pixels. Okay, let's also give it a bar. Let's give it a gap of 10 pixels. Okay, so now let's select its items. Let's style the items inside, right? They all have a class of item, right? So the style I'm doing now will apply to all of the items that has this class. So let's give it a width of, let's say, minimum width of 150 pixels, right? Also, let's give it a padding of 20 pixels. Let's give it, actually let me color the text white or white or whatsoever, and the text align to center, right? So as you can see, we cannot see much of them. Actually, let me give them a background color of slate blue. Okay, there you go. So the container is 300 pixels wide, right? Each box wants at least 150 pixels, so together they need 450 pixels to shrink them and see what happens. Okay, uh, shrink example. Okay, let's make sure you are targeting the correct one. Let's say this one's first shrink to 0. Okay, nothing happened, right? And the second one, let's second item, right? There are three children's inside the container, right? Inside the shrink example flex container. Let's give this one shrink of 1 and the other one and the last one, sorry, uh, let's give it 3. Okay, so far as you can see, nothing happened, right? Alright guys, as you can see, there's nothing happening, right? So that the problem here, I think, is, yeah, I think this one might be the problem, the main width, right? So I gave each item a main width of 150 pixels, so the starting point, right? So that means the items cannot shrink past that width. Okay, so let me remove the main width. Okay, now we start to see our flex shrink in action. Like I told you, the first one won't shrink at all, so it takes up the whole 150 pixels. The second one shrinks smaller, and the third one shrink much better, right? I hope you understand it. So right now, the next thing we are covering is the flex basis, right? And so the flex basis is just like, okay guys, so the flex basis property specifies the initial size of a flex item before growing or shrinking, right? It sets the starting width in a horizontal layout or height in a vertical layout. Common values are auto or a specific size like 200 pixels. Actually, let me show you an example. Yes, we already have this div here with the class of grow basis, right? Uh, Let me change it to, let's say, flex. Okay, flex basis, right? Okay, so we have this container here. It's flex basis, right? Let's display it to flex. Give the container a width of 200 pixels. Actually, let's say 300. Okay, uh, and let's style the item with the items inside of it. Okay, let's give it a padding of 20 pixels each. Okay, let's give them background of, let's say, equal. Okay, are you there? Let's give it so let me add some gap between the items. Let's say gap of 10 pixels, right? So we have our 3 items here, right? We don't need this. Okay, so we have our 3 items, right? So the way flex basis works is that, like I explained to you, it specifies the initial size of the flex item before growing or shrinking, right? Okay, so let me select the first item here. Sorry, flex basis, right? And then and of type of 1, right? Let me give it a flex basis of, let's say, let's say 100 pixels. Okay, nothing happened, right? Let's select the other two. Okay, so the second one, let me give it flex basis of 200 pixels. I hope you're seeing what's happening, right? So now the starting flex basis for the second item is 100 pixels. Can you see how it grows? And this one, let's give it auto, and you should see what happens. Okay, so now what happens is that it takes up the remaining space. Okay, it takes up the remaining space in the container. So the space that is remaining inside is 100 pixels. So that is why I just take it fully. Okay, so the key differences between these three, flex, grow, shrink, and basis, is that flex grow is how much extra space the item should take, and the flex shrink is how much to compress when space is tight. Okay, and flex basis is the starting size before growing or shrinking. Do you understand? So I think this is pretty long video, but we have some few things to cover, and then cut a little nice project, landing page, sorry, to finish the video with. So let's back to our this thing, our first example here on top. So apart from align items, we also have self. Apart from justify content, we also have justify self. Okay, so now let's comment the flex, grow, shrink, and basis examples, and let's focus on those. Okay, let me comment them here too. Okay, so there you go. So right now, uh, let me let me I actually commented the CSS too, right? Let me turn it back to where it is before. Okay, so our item here. Okay guys, so now let me show you the align self and justify self properties. Okay, actually let's do it here below the container styles, right? Let's select an item. Let's select the first item. Okay, and of type 1, right? Let's say align self, flex start. Let's see what happened. So it now started alone. See self alignment property, right? We also have the align self center, which will center the item alone. Okay, can you see that? We also have the flex, and as you might guess. Okay, there you go. So this is for align. We also have the for the justify. So justify self flex start. Nothing happened. I think this is the default behavior. But let's try out the second one actually. Let's try to justify it to center. Nothing happened still. Okay guys, I think the problem is our items here stretching the full height of our container. I thought that is the problem, but no, it's not. Actually, justify self is not a Flexbox property. It's a CSS grid property. I really mixed up things. I'm a bit tired actually. So I'm sorry for that. It's actually a CSS grid property. So we don't need it here. Okay. So far so good. So that's pretty much for the basics. Let's build a real world navigation bar. Okay. To wrap up the video using Flexbox. We will build a navigation bar as well as a hero section of our website. Okay. So let's start here. Actually, okay. Let's give our navbar a class of, let's say, main nav. Okay. I hope you're seeing the code very well. Okay. Let's say we have our logo here. And let's say my website. Okay. My website. Let me comment out all the CSS we have here. For now, we don't need it. Okay. Okay. So let's create our navigational links. So the first link should be actually there should all be dead links, right? So the first one is home, about, let's say services, let's say mm, um, services, let's say blog, yes, blog, and then login. Let's say join us. Okay, let's start our navigation bar. So Let's first select the header. Actually, let me give it border of 1 pixel red so that we see what you're doing. Okay, and our margin here is actually is pushing our contents to the center of the page. Let me remove that. Okay, there you go. Now let's say, actually we don't need this. Okay, let's style our nav. We give it a class of main nav, right? So let's say display flex, right? Align items center, justify content, space between. Like I told you, space between is mostly used for navigation bars, right? Come to your UL, also display flex. Okay, let's say UL li list style none. Let's give it some padding of 15 pixels, right? Actually, the last one, join us, is actually a button, so you can also turn a normal link into a button. So you could do that by giving it a class. Let me give it a class of btn. Okay, so ul li and then our link. Let's remove the text decoration. No, actually, let me style our logo, right? So inside our nav here, let's give it a background. Let's give it some background color. I think this is not visible actually. And don't worry about the colors. I'm just doing this for practice, okay? And let's yeah, let's let's say text transform opaqueness for our logo, right? And for the links too. Opaqueness. Okay. And now we can control the font size. Let's give it a font size of 16 pixels. Oh, that's the default one. Say 0.65 frame. And that's too small actually. Okay. 0.8 is good. Right now, let me add some padding here. So it should give it some, should give us some spacing, right? 0 pixels top and bottom, 30 pixels left and right. Oh, inside the nav, sorry. Okay, there you go. I think that is too much. Let's say 10. Yeah, 10 is okay. Mm, yeah. Okay, now let's turn the. Actually, let me change the color of the links to white. Right. Let me let's say let's add some media query. Let's say if the screen size is if the max width of the screen is 678 pixels for mobiles and tablets, then the links should be so the main nav. The flex direction should be column, right? Can you see that? So right now the flex the screen is less than 768 pixels. So can you see it? Now let me try to resize it and you can see what happens. Okay, can you see that? When the screen becomes bigger, it becomes flex direction row, and when it becomes smaller and smaller, it now turns to. Okay, yeah, that's pretty much for the basics. So there we have our fully functioning navigational bar. Oops, I said I will also create a hero section, right? Actually, let me do the hero section inside of this. Let's say section dot hero, right? Say hero content h2. Welcome to my website, right? Give it some dummy text, maybe 20 words, and a call to action button. Say read more. Okay, so dot hero. Actually, let me give the height, its height to maybe 80 viewport height. Okay, let me give the background. Which color is that? And it's blue. No, let me select. I'm actually not good at colors, but colors is not our main purpose here. So we're just I'm just trying to show you how Flexbox powers our websites. Okay, so let's say display flex, right? You see nothing happened because this is it's not the container. This is not the parent container of this. The parent container is the hero content div, right? Let's say align items center, justify content center. Okay, let's say hero content, right? text align center. Okay, hero content, and then our call to action button. Let's give it a padding of 7 pixels top and bottom, 15 pixels left and right. Border radius of 8 pixels of 50. I need a round button. That's correct. Let's set the color to white, and then the button, the background color to still blue, right? Up. What color? Okay, sorry, aquamarine. I forgot the color I chose. Okay, so let's remove the border. Think it's better like that. What do you say? Now let's select it's 2 and color it white. So as you can see, our hero section is now live, right? Say .cta. So if a user hover over the cta, in its opacity should drop a little. Okay, can you see that? Can you see the effect? And let me give it some smooth transition. Okay. Also, let me add cursor of pointer. Yeah, that's great. Now let's try viewing our page on a mobile device and see how it looks. So I have this Chrome extension which its name is Mobile Simulator. Okay. The Nava will now not be a lot responsive, but let me just show it to you. It's fully responsive actually. So can you see how our website looks on small screens? So if you're using a laptop, I recommend installing this Chrome extension. It's really a great extension for viewing your web pages, right? You can see we have different devices here, right? iPhone and tablets and even laptops. So on laptop, MacBook Air, you see how our website looks on that device, and on iPad Pro. Yeah, that's great, isn't it? Oh, sorry, I tried saving the page. Okay, so this is the Chrome extension. It's really great. Okay, so now the main thing I'm trying to show you is how our website looks now with Flexbox. Now without Flex, How can you possibly do that? There is no way, right? And the flex wrap too, I need to show you that. Let me add a services section below. So yeah, let's say section dot services, right? Section dot services. Let me remove, let me close the extension for now. Section dot services. Let's say h2 my services, right? Let's create this container. And the first box, actually I'm going to create 3 boxes, right? So the first box, I'm going to have this folder here, right? The image folder. If you could remember, I added it, I think, from our HTML class, right? So we have these 3 user images. So I'm going to add them now. You have to come out, okay, user1.jpg, right? So this is the first user here, okay. Let's say user details. Oops, sorry, I actually forgot that it's a services this thing. I went on and added users. Sorry for that. Let me actually use a digital image here, so this one, instead of a user. Okay. Oops, the image is too big, right? Let me, did I also show that you can control the width and height manually in your HTML? You can set the width and height properties on any image. This thing, you don't need to tell it pixels or rem. You just, okay, there you go. So let's say not user details, service details, right? Let's say the first service I offer is web design, okay. Let's add some dummy text, about 30 words, okay. And also let me just give it a class of city, so you don't need to worry about styling. You don't need to worry about styling that button, because we already have button with that name, right? So let's say book now, okay. uh, what happened? Actually, I styled that button. I targeted the only CTA, the only button that is inside the hero content. Let me target the all CTS in the page. Okay, there you go. So right now let's take our box. Service container, right? Let's give it a width of 300 pixels. Let me give it a border so that we see the size. Okay, actually service details, not service container. I actually don't. What am I doing? God. Okay, so right now we have this. We have our first service box here, right? So this box, okay, and it's inside our services container, right? So let's say, actually, let me duplicate the boxes. Okay, so this one here, so the last one should be, let's say, site maintenance or digital marketing, actually. Or let's say SEO optimization, search engine. SEO stands for search engine optimization, right? So this is the second one, right? Let's say UI UX design. Okay, there we have our three boxes, right? So and they are all inside the services container. So let's take that class. So I'm targeting the title. Okay, I'm targeting the only title. So this one. So yeah. So let's say that services container display flex, right? Align items center, justify content, space around. Okay, now let's give each of them 200. Okay, you can see our boxes in the browser. Let's give them some. You don't need to give them margin. Let's say space around, right? Let's say our container. Uh, this thing here is 100% of width, right? Let's say actually let me add this for the images to fit wherever they are. Okay, yeah. So service details h3. Let's give it a padding of 15 pixels. Okay, and the paragraph, let's give it a line height 1.5. Up. Let's use this color, the one that we started with. Okay, so this is our boxes so far, right? Can you see how they look when the page is full width? Can you see the boxes? I mean how they look. Let me add some styles on them. Let me add some box shadow on the boxes. Yeah, let me remove the border for now, we don't need it. But let's say box shadow 3 pixels, 3 pixels, 5 pixels glow, and the color, and then -3, -3. Okay, and let's give our boxes some padding. Okay, pretty good. I don't think we should give them padding here. I think we should give the service details. Yeah, that looks better. Okay, so as you can see, this is how they looks on any screen that is bigger than 768 pixels, right? That is wider than 768 pixels. So watch what happens as we go back. So right now they just go there like that without breaking, and which doesn't look good at all. So what might be the possible solution to this? So how can we make it responsive using Flexbox? Well, we are going to use the property that I showed you before. So the flex wrap property. Okay. So far, this is how the service boxes look on a larger screen, right? So let me get back to VS Code. I increase the size of the boxes, right? So the reason why flex wrap is not working here is that, let me return it back to normal. The reason why it's not working is that the container doesn't have a size. I didn't set the width for the container. As you can see, it's marked with 100%, right? So it will fit whatever that is inside.